afternoon, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. I hope you guys are doing well. In this video, we're going to take a look ahead, and after a long, active week, this week, it looks like this weekend will at the very least be quiet. But as we go forward here, the pattern is going to pick back up, and we could be seeing both severe storms and winter weather in the coming days. So the good news is Saturday through Monday, no severe storms expected. We are expecting winter weather out to the northwest, and this will be transitioning as we move forward to the east. Later in the week is when I was expecting increased chance of severe weather, but there's no particular area of interest right now. When we look at the SBC outlook, as you can see here, the predictability is too low, so there's not much certainty as to what may happen just yet. So this will be something that we'll be progressively keeping an eye on throughout the course of the week. But as far as any sort of significant risk, as of right now, there are none. Winter weather is a different story, though. So we'll start out by looking at the vorticity here. Also, another big topic will be a cool down that's coming up towards the end of the week. And this could be the first signs of the effects of that polar vortex that we've been talking about towards the end of last month. So as you can see, it's a pretty quiet pattern. Very zonal type flow where we have the trough not showing too much in the way of amplitude. But notice as this ridge starts to build, we see this trough begin to deepen out here towards the west. And right around Thursday morning, around my time, that's when we start to see this little train of storm systems come in. Here's the first one. This one will be bringing snow towards the mountainous ranges. I think towards the valleys you might end up mostly as rain this time. This low will start to deepen as we get into Friday across the Midwest here, and we could see a pretty big time winter storm firing off of that. This is all based off of the Euro, by the way. Euro also has this plume of moisture over here that develops from the Baja and parts of the Pineapple Express, and we watch this moisture plume develop, and showers and thunderstorms are possible across the southeast. And what will end up happening is most likely we won't see too much in the way of severe weather from this as it stands right now, but as time goes on, we begin to see the winter events start to take over. Could be a line of storms that forms out ahead of this, but for the most part, I'm thinking we're going to be mainly seeing snow in a lot of the same areas that we've been seeing it so far. As we drag this on, this snowstorm will quickly head offshore, and then we'll be looking towards the next storm system that will be coming in a week's time after this. So this is as far as we can look out on the Euro. It's about 10 days out. But the main talk is this storm system that's going to be coming in towards the latter half of the week. But when we go to the GFS, and this is probably why we don't have any sort of severe weather area that we can hone in on right now, is because we have a different look on here, as you'll see in just a minute here. So it starts out the same, pretty much zonal flow, a little bit of an atmospheric river setup across parts of the northwest here. We have this plume of rain and snow showers coming in, and it's not really till later in the week where that first storm system comes in. But look what happens as we get towards Wednesday night into Thursday across this region. Really big, deep trough starts to develop here as we get into Thursday afternoon and into Friday. Digs really far down, and this is where my concern for severe weather begins to emerge here as we head towards Friday afternoon. This could be an area that develops over here between Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, maybe even parts of Louisiana, maybe even some parts of Missouri here, because we do have an abundant warm sector right here, and this cold air will collide with that. Could be a cold front or dry line that develops here, and we could be dealing with a threat of severe storms, a lot like we did last week. But again, the GFS is the only model right now that's really picking up on this. I'm not going to show the Canadian today because it's pretty much doing its own thing, so it's relatively useless right now. But ultimately, it's the only model that's showing a more aggressive run right now. So with that, you can't have high confidence. And then we see this front try to develop according to the GFS, and then we see numerous showers and thunderstorms over the southeast and Tennessee valleys, even into the Ohio Valley. And then to that next weekend, that's when we start to see that front move out. There's going to be a lot of cold air behind that. Could be a big time winter storm that develops over here towards the Midwest and then heading towards the Great Lakes. So we could be dealing with another wintry situation there. But if you can already see here, if you were able to understand what these numbers mean, I do have a tutorial video on how to do that. I'll leave that link in the bio, but you can see that the numbers here have dropped a bit, which is usually indicative of some pretty cold air starting to come in, especially once you get towards this 540 line. It's pushed a lot further south here, and this is heading in towards the mid-month time frame. And this holds for a little bit, not for long, but we could see some significant cold weather across a good chunk of the northern U.S., especially from the Midwest to the Northeast here. Meanwhile, out west, it looks like we're starting to get on a little bit of a warming trend. But as we continue to move this forward, as we get further and further along into no man's land, I'm starting to see a trend here where we start to see a ridge come back towards the middle of the country, or a trough, and eventually I think we're going to get snapped back into the pattern that we're currently in right now as we head towards the latter half of the mid-month. So a lot of stuff moving around right now, a little bit of a pattern shift, partially due to what in my opinion might very well be the polar vortex that we've been aforementioning for a bit here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the temperature difference, which is going to be a key player in a lot of this. Start out with the euro here, and what we'll see is it's pretty much going to be business as usual starting out, or we're going to be slightly warmer than average, more or less, but it's going to be what we've been seeing for the last few days here. And as we move forward into the latter half of this week, that's when we will see that storm system come in. Warm sector at Vex. So, I mean, there's a hint of a chance of severe weather here. A lot of this is going to depend on other dynamics such as instability, moisture returns, etc. But there is a warm sector that is available. So that there's still something that warrants attention. Just there's not a lot of confidence right now. But as time goes on, we'll see this front move through. The temperatures will start to drop. We'll try to pick back up, but slowly but surely this cold air will start to win out over the eastern half of the U.S. And we're going to start dealing with below average temperatures now as we head towards the middle of the month. And the GFS really isn't too much different from the looks of it. In fact, I think we can actually expect colder temperatures with the GFS, if anything. Trying to make sure this thing actually goes over to where I want it to go. But as we go forward here, very similar look starting out. Much more abundant warm sector with this as we head towards the midweek here. So this is heading into Friday. It's a little bit more confined to the south a bit, but look what happens by Friday afternoon. Very abundant warm sector, much warmer temperatures available, much warmer surface temperatures available, which would lead to probably a little bit stronger storm development. Of course, a lot of this is going to depend on still moisture returns, instability lift, all the other parameters that you would need for severe weather. So this moves forward. We see the front come in across the southeast. And then as we head towards the middle of the month, we see those temperatures really start to take a dive here. And then as we move towards the 15th, that's when we start to see the coldest air starting to move into the eastern half of the U.S. Up north, we could be seeing a lot of negative temperatures, some well below zero as we start working through the back half of the month. And these look like they're going to be lingering for a bit here. So this is definitely an indicator of a potential of the polar vortex starting to have some effects here on this part of the country, on this part of the world now. Finally, we started detecting some indicators of the polar vortex all the way back in January, but usually it'll take a few weeks for those effects to really take hold, and this usually affects temperatures worldwide, not just one country. We've been hearing talk about that in other countries like Europe, or not other countries, but other countries in Europe, and as time goes on, eventually we will get a piece of that action, and it looks like that's what we're seeing now. So the next thing we're going to go ahead and look at here is the precipitation, and that's going to be the biggest thing to talk about right now. Since there's no big severe weather threat, I'm not going to look at anything as far as jet stream is concerned just yet. Depending on how things trend tomorrow, I might take a look at that. There might be 2 videos up. We also have to talk about spring because the equinox is coming very soon, so there has to be, of course, a spring outlook. So we'll have plenty of content coming your way. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and look at the precip map first. Starting out, there's some couple of minor systems flying, some minor pieces of energy flying around, some causing light to moderate snow for some places. Really, the mountain ranges are the only places of concern. Towards Thursday, we get this little plume of moisture that flows in from the subtropical jet. We get some showers and storms set up across the Ozarks here, across Oklahoma, and even parts of the southeast. And then as this goes forward, that's when we start to see that storm system really begin to develop. That low deepens, and we could see moderate to heavy snow across parts of northwestern Kansas, Nebraska, even into the valleys of the Rockies here back towards the west here. Denver could be in this action as well. The Dakotas are in play now. Parts of Iowa are in play. We also have to watch this little line here because this could be where our battle zone is. We could see a little bit of sleet and ice there. It mainly seems like it's going to be a little cold there, so the ice threat should be a little bit more minimal, but we'll see how this unfolds. Big snow shield develops on the backside of this, so the Dakotas in particular, and then eventually Minnesota and Wisconsin are going to get in the action here. Could be seeing some significant snow. Then this storm takes a track towards the north of the border here, but this track will also allow some of these places over towards the Great Lakes and parts of eastern New York here, where we could see some moderate, in some places even heavy snow as it moves towards Adirdax. Let's hope I pronounced that right. But that being said, on the warm sector of this, there is a chance of maybe some severe storms. Not the most impressive setup according to the Euro, like I've been mentioning earlier. This does eventually move over towards the southeast, and this definitely looks like it could create a flooding situation since we've had a lot of storm systems going over this region. So flooding is becoming an increasing concern across this part of the world here. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But from there, things look like they start to cool down and quiet down a bit, and then we'll be watching our next storm system as we head towards the middle of the month. This is as far as we can look at the Euro. GFS, however, different story. We can look out almost a week further. Henceforth, we will go ahead and do such. And of course, the similar look starting out. It isn't really until Thursday till we see something of real significance here. Of course, there's showers and thunderstorms that are and other rampant pieces of energy flying around that could cause a little bit of snow showers up north. Towards the south, that'll be rain. This trough deepens a little bit earlier than that last one on the Euro solution. So what ends up happening here is that warm air advects a little further north too. So there could be potential for ice to develop as well on the front flank of this system here as it collides with that warm air. So this solution is going to have to be watched really closely. Also could see enough convection here, maybe even to cause thunder snow. Not entirely sold on that just yet, but just based off of where that 540 line is in comparison to that warm sector, it can't be ruled out right now. It's a little too far ahead to tell, though, over 150 plus hours out. That being said, there does look like there's some potential for severe storms to develop Friday evening into Saturday morning. Maybe a line develops, and then eventually the southeast starts to become more favorable. But I do think parameters will be limited for the most part still. As far as the wintry side of things, the solution looks relatively similar. We start out a little warm to begin this system in comparison to the last one, but ultimately it all ends the same, with an abundance of snow possible from Nebraska all the way up through the Dakotas into Minnesota, and then maybe even parts of Wisconsin. Storm system here treks a little further north here, so this does end up stifling the northeast here, where we could see more of a wintry mix and more so rain with this versus just straight up snow. Could see some remnant snow on the backside of this for parts of the Ohio Valley. And then from there, it looks like things quiet down. Also cools down a lot towards the eastern half of the country. Big rush of cold air comes in. And we always have to watch for clipper systems during this time, because these can always trek a little further south wherever that cold air ends up being in place. And look what ends up happening here. It's a really interesting run as we head towards what looks like St. Patrick's Day, where we could even see a few snow flurries flying around towards the southeast. And then there could even be a big storm that tries to develop here about 324 hours out. This needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because at this point we're in what we call no man's land with the models. But if this comes to fruition, not saying that it can't, we could be seeing a big southern snowstorm for parts of Tennessee and some of the Ohio Valley as we head towards the 17th and into the 18th. This may end up turning into a nor'easter. Right now it looks more so like no. I think the storm track is a little less than favorable for that. But of course, like I said, we're in no man's land. So what we see here 300 plus hours out today is going to look a lot different as we draw closer to this. So it's going to be interesting to watch how all of this unfolds. I'm not really going to take a look at I'm not going to really read into the snowfall totals or anything like that just yet, simply because we're still trying to figure out what this storm system is going to do, since there's so much model disagreement, a lot of variance right now. So just stay tuned. That's the only thing I can really tell you at this point. I'm not trying to leave you on a cliffhanger, but that's just what I'm seeing right now. But hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We're pretty close to 300 subs here. 1 year anniversary of the first video on this channel is March 6th. Still a shot at doing that. If you guys can do it, I'll see if there's something special I could do in the meantime. But even if we don't make it, I just want to say I appreciate all of you that have subscribed over the last week. We've watched the live streams, even though they've been a little bit they haven't been up to par, in my opinion. I'm going to work on getting those better over time. But yeah, if you haven't subbed to the channel, definitely do so if you watch my videos, and then of course share the videos to anyone that may find this useful. But until tomorrow, this is the end of the video. This has been Tire Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.